Why is exercise so important for lower back pain? Now, that might seem like a bit of a contradiction because I have said in the past the biggest mistake that people make when treating lower back pain is they use exercise. So what we're going to try and do in this tutorial is we're going to try and make sense of those two contradicting headlines and see how exercise fits in to lower back pain rehabilitation. If you'd like your own tailored lower back pain rehabilitation program, just click the link below, go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain consultation, and we can get you started on the road to your lower back pain rehab program. In part one, we're just going to look at some key concepts about how we need to use exercise and what we're trying to do with regards to exercise when we talk about lower back pain. So what we've got on here is a quick quote which is about promote the creation of stronger biological scaffold that is better able to withstand a range of loading types. What does that mean? From my perspective, when I'm using exercise with lower back pain clients, it's all about everyday life to start with. Obviously, this comes from an exercise or fitness type environment. But what we're talking about, or certainly what I'm talking about, is just everyday life to start with. Because what people have are pain triggers. Now that could be because they're sat down. It could be because they're lifting poorly. So all we need to be able to do is get their body able to manage those triggers, and so they can cope with the rigors of everyday life. So when they talk about a range of loading types, I think about that from an everyday perspective. Can you sit at your desk and be pain-free? Can you go to the shops and lift your shopping bags up pain-free? Those types of things. So we need to get control and be able to manage those pain triggers first. So first of all, we need to understand what they are. We can then start using exercise off the back of that, and this is where this comes in, because it will help us build that stronger biological scaffold. But when we're talking about lower back pain, it's more about the endurance of it, and again I'll sort of explain that as we go. So what do these sort of two images mean? With the green line, this is where exercise would start. So you get a training stimulus here. During exercise, the body fatigues. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking it gets stronger during exercise. That comes after, which I'll explain. So fatigue sets in during the workout. Now again, I'm talking about this from a fitness scenario, but again, the concepts are the same. Then the workout ends, and then what starts to happen is the body recovers, and it comes back with the hope of being stronger. So it comes back stronger. So you get what's called this super compensation. What you then do is once you get to here, is you then add in, so you get to here, you have your exercise, you do your recovery, then you get your super compensation. So you do your exercise again, recovery, get your super compensation. So what's happening here, a little bit stronger each time. So we need to use exercise in the right way and do it at the right time. It's not just a case of doing it once a week or every day. That all depends on your pain triggers and how your body responds to changing of posture, changing of everyday habits, and then the addition of adding exercise in. Because it could be that you do it every day, but you might just do one exercise for one set for a very short amount of reps just to get the muscles activated. And we'll sort of explore that a little bit later on. So it's very important that we understand this, because it's not just about, I need to exercise every day, I need to do more, I need to get stronger. It's about learning how your body responds with the training stimulus, managing its fatigue, then recovering itself, and then trying to get it into this super compensation phase, so we can then build it on further and go from here to here to here. So there's all these different concepts, and then that will then go out, because it might be that we go just use one exercise here, 2 exercises here, 3 exercises here, as long as the body's responding in the right way. And that's the key thing. There's no hard and fast rules to it. And that's the key thing about the online consultation. That's why I have to do it, because I need to know how your body's going to respond during the initial stages of just understanding the pain triggers and then reducing them. Once we then start adding exercises in, and then again, it's key to understand how your body's responding so we can then progress these exercises on. And that's what the 2 weeks of support is for you to then give me that feedback to say, okay, we need to add another exercise in, or we need to take an exercise out and draw it back in a bit. So it's all about managing. And that's the biggest mistake that people make, is they use exercise. Normally it's too much, too soon, and too often. And that's what we need to be able to manage. So what we're now going to start looking at are some different aspects of what a training program could look like. The exercises that we're choosing need to involve some sort of movement. Now again, it's not about doing heavy squats and heavy deadlifts and bench press and pull-ups and all this kind of thing. All we need, as it says here, is mobilization. Early mobilization and tissue loading. So there does need to be some degree of challenge to it, because again, we need it to come back stronger. So we get an early mobilization, we get tissue loading, has shown to have positive effect to promote collagen reorganization. So if there is some degree of spasm in the muscle, tension in the muscle, or knots in the muscle, this is what we need to start reorganizing here and allowing tissues to heal. So again, this comes by understanding pain triggers, because we can start to understand what tissue is creating the problem. Is it the disc? Is it the vertebra? Is it the nerve? Is it the muscle? Is the muscle causing the problem as a consequence of the pain coming from somewhere else? And which muscle is that happening to? So these are all the questions that we need to get to the bottom of. So we can then start doing this early mobilization. So there's no real randomness to the exercises that we're choosing, and there's no real one size fits all. There are certainly exercises that I choose more so than others, that's for definite. So there are common threads to the exercises that are chosen, but it's not just a case of saying, right, here's your 4 exercises, go and do them. So it is wise to initiate a loading program as soon as pain permits, and that is key, and that is something that I keep talking about, is the management of the pain triggers. So if you're constantly in pain, there is no point doing exercise programs, because that's in some respects going to make the problem a little bit worse. We need to get control of the pain triggers. Once we can do that, then we're in a position to start mobilizing, getting a little bit of loading into the tissue, to then start helping it cope with the rigors of everyday life, as I keep describing. And with regards to the images, this is just highlighting that you've got these little knots in the muscle, in the muscle fibers, and then what that can do, they need to be, in some respects, ironed out, is I guess an easy way of describing it. And that in part is what early mobilization can do. There may be some degree of massage that needs to go in there. There may be some degree of stretching that needs to go in there. But there is also, once we've massaged and we've stretched, we need to get these tissues moving. So once these knots are ironed out, that the muscle fibers realize that they can move, they should move. So this is what we need to start focusing on. And hopefully the picture is starting to build about what an exercise program can start to look like once, as it says here, pain permits, or as I would say, we've got control of the pain triggers. Part 3 is something that needs to be brought to the exercise, and it's what I would describe as one of the core skills, and it's bracing or stiffening, or as it says here, stiffened bracing effect, or bracing effect to the intricate muscle network that supports the spine. So you can see all these spinal erectors coming up the back, all here, some deeper, some more superficial. Then you've got the abdominal wall going through here, coming through here. So all of these are going to be there to support the spine. You can even add in the lats, because we've got the thoracolumbar fascia just here. So all of these muscles are going to support the spine and the pain that is created. But again, we have to understand these pain triggers, because if we use too much bracing, that could cause a problem if your spine doesn't like excessive compression. So it might need to be able, it might mean that we need to be able to modulate the amount of bracing that we do. But one of these core skills of bracing the abdominals does something quite important. It reduces the joint micro movement. So if you can imagine vertebra, disc, vertebra, disc, what these muscles are doing, they're essentially tying these muscles down onto the pelvis. So we minimize these micro movements, which again can create pain. And there are ways of understanding that. So if we can, if we get that sort of painful catch when we get jerked or we miss a step or whatever it may be, then this could be a part of it. So the joint micro movements that trigger pain for a period of time after they are performed. So this bracing is a key skill, or a core skill as I would call them, to be able to implement into exercise. So again, I'm not talking about actual exercises, I'm just talking about what you need to bring to the exercise. And one of them is this bracing effect, and what we're going to talk about next is another core skill. The fourth part, which is the next core skill, is the ability to hip hinge and therefore activate the glute muscles or the muscles of the hip and do them well enough. So while back pain inhibits the gluteal muscles of the hip, it also tends to facilitate or tighten the psoas muscle. Now, what you find a lot of people doing is stretching the psoas. Now, that is useful and that has some use, but if you're not activating the glute and stabilizing the pelvis, the body will just make the psoas tight again. So when you go into these big, long lunges that some people promote online, it's key to understand that we need to get glutes active alongside that, because there is, in some respects, there isn't a great deal wrong with that type of thing. It's very much being able to manage the range of movements that you go into, but the key is to get the reciprocal inhibition turned around, or no, more balanced. So it's all about activating the gluteal muscles, stabilizing the pelvis. What also stabilizing the pelvis will do is it will help these joint micro movements and the bracing that we talked about before. So we've got all these gluteal muscles, glute max, glute medius, you've got glute minimus in there, you've got the deep external rotators going through here. Here is your psoas that you want to be lengthening, and again, there's nothing wrong with lengthening as long as we are activating the glutes, because what will happen is that reciprocal inhibition will start to reverse itself and start to balance itself off more. And what it basically means is the tighter the psoas gets, the more inactive the glutes become. So as we start tightening the glutes, the more the psoas will calm down. So in some respects, the loosening of the psoas will kind of be taken care of in part by activating the glutes. That doesn't mean it's going to go all the way, but it's going to certainly improve, which is only going to enhance the stretching. So when you see people promoting that online, there is some context for it and some understanding that needs to come with it. So when it comes to building a exercise program for lower back pain, it needs a few things. We need to understand the key concept of that supercompensation or fatigue recovery supercompensation. So we know how to build in exercise into a program. We need to get control of the pain triggers first. Then we can start to implement the exercises. Then what we need to do is start looking at some of those key concepts, which is the bracing of the abdominals and also the hinging of the hips to get the muscles working in the right way. Once we can do that, then we're in a much more effective position to start overcoming lower back pain. And as I mentioned at the start, if you would like to overcome your lower back pain, you would like a rehab program for that, just click the link below, go through to my online consultation page, get yourself enrolled, we'll get you 2 questionnaires, and that will get you started on the road to a pain-free back.